Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you coming. There's a lot of changes happening in the Department of the County Clerk, and so we wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of everything that we're doing and how we're trying to improve services and make sure that we remain a great reputation as the wedding capital of the world. So my name is Lynn Goya. I'm the Clark County Clerk. I was elected last year and started my first year last year. And so I think you've noticed there's been quite a few changes in the last year. We're trying to improve services, streamline operations so it's more efficient for the couples that come in, more efficient for you guys, and so that the couples can spend more time at the chapel and with you instead of waiting in line at the county. So welcome. I wanted to introduce my team. Some of them are here. My assistant county clerk is Jim Pierce. A lot of you know him. He's been around for quite a few years. The wedding bureau manager is Carl Bates. Most of you know Ashley Schoenberg? Schoenberg, I'm sorry, I say your name wrong every time. She is the chief person that you meet when you come and drop off wedding certificates to file. And the person who's made this PowerPoint is Susan Wallenberg. And then we have two of our supervisors for the Marriage Bureau outside right now, Neftali and Stephanie. Thank you. My mind goes blank in front of everybody. So welcome. We have a few things to cover today. Most of it is just a little bit of information, and then there's some key things that we want to do to improve services and make sure that we can be as efficient as possible and help you guys be as efficient as possible. So did everyone get an agenda? Okay, great. So the first thing, everybody wants to know about marriage statistics. How are we doing this year? As you know, we grew just slightly last year over the year before. So that was including the same-sex marriages, and that was about, same-sex marriages are about 5 to 6% of the licenses that we issue. So without those, we would have had about a 4% drop in marriage licenses issued. So that was great. It kept us stable. And this year we're on track. If you look at that statistic, we're just slightly down from last year. So that's a good thing too, because what we're trying to do is promote wedding tourism, but we want to make sure that we're not declining anymore. So we're pretty much flat. Get your marketing out there and help us make sure that we go flat or up instead of flat or down. If you guys want to look at what the statistics are, we are doing an automatic update on our website. On our website, if you go to the clerk's homepage, you will be able to see statistics, and those are automatically updated at the first of each month. So you can track what we're doing as well. As you know, one of the things that I was doing is doing the wedding promotion initiative. I established a public-private partnership with the wedding industry, LVCVA, Travel Nevada, and the clerk's office. We got a $14 per license put on every license so that we generated about $1.2 million at the end of the year. And we're working closely with the LVCVA to promote weddings. We're coming up with the research that will be due in around August, and then we'll come up with a campaign that we'll let you guys all know about, and hopefully you guys can participate as well. What we're hoping is that we can get the message out and everyone can support the efforts we're doing. We can support what you guys are doing. Through the wedding industry, we started the Las Vegas Wedding Chamber of Commerce. I invite you all to join. The first 150 members are $150, and that goes through June 1st. And we're doing a lot of events. We have a lot of things planned. The first year, we want to do a 4th of July parade where we marry couples during the parade. We think that'll get a lot of press. We're going to do a big gala at the end of the year. We would like your support on that. And all of the revenue that we generate through the Wedding Chamber of Commerce will go to promote weddings. Also, the wedding directory from the Wedding Chamber of Commerce, we're going to be able to put on our marriage license application page, and so that will feed directly back to the chamber and directly back to your businesses. So again, I encourage you to join and participate and help build the industry again. So now departmental updates is next. The first thing is we're moving again. same floor, just a little further down toward the rotunda. We're going to be in the closest section to the door leading out to the rotunda on that same entrance. So just keep going a few feet further and you'll be able to see the new place, and we should be in there in the next month or so. So if we're not where you expect us to be, just keep walking and you'll find us. You should look for Ashley. Another thing that we're trying to do is we do have a growing international tourism base, and the top countries that come here are the UK and Canada, but we also get a big population from Germany, South America, Spain, Portugal, China. And so what we're trying to do is translate the wedding application into multiple languages. First we've done is the paper application. We've gotten that done. So if you have clientele that would like to use those foreign language applications, we have them on paper. We're in the process of trying to do that online so they can also fill those out online. Currently, the only one online is still in English. But if they do fill out the foreign language, please have them write it out in English, because we don't know how to translate personally. So we do need them to do that. If you have any questions or would like to help support us on that effort and translate some of the supporting documents, we could really use your help on that. The faster we get these things done, the more options we have to market to the international clientele. So if you guys want to help with that, if you're fluent in any foreign language and you'd like to proof some of our work so that we make sure that it's accurate when we get it out, or if you have a language that we haven't talked about and you're willing to do a little bit of the work to get that up to speed, we have a sign-up sheet out there. Give us your name, tell us what languages you're fluent in, or your clients or your spouses are fluent in, and we'll try to get those languages done as well. So we're also trying to do a little bit more user-friendly with some of our copy. If you look at the clerk site right now, it's very copy-heavy, which is very difficult for English as second language learners or even millennials. A lot of them really don't look at a big copy, and so what we're trying to do is move more in this graphics form. So the first form we created was a how to get married in Las Vegas. So this should summarize everything you need to know to get married, how to go to a chapel, what do you need to do to get your license, just the hard nuts and bolts of that. And we're going to translate that into other languages. We have one done in Spanish, and that's as far as we've gotten with that. But again, the more we can do that, the more we can hand it out to people in foreign languages, the easier it is for them to come and get married in Vegas, which is what we want. So our primary goals are Spanish, French, German, Italian, and Chinese. And those are the first languages that we're working on. And then again, if you're fluent in other languages, let us know, and we would be happy to work with you to translate into other languages. If you have a specific clientele base that comes from another country that needs another language, just let us know, and we'll try to work with you on that. And now for some of the nuts and bolts of why we called the meeting together. The first thing is, again, we're trying to clean up the processes and make sure that we're following the law as closely as possible. And when we did the mailing from the marriage certificates from the recorder to the clerk's office, we sent out mailings to all of the wedding officiants that we had access to. And we got hundreds of returned mail, hundreds. It took us months to try to process that and try to get it up to date. And we just don't have the resources to do something like that. The law actually says that if you make a change of address or telephone number or any of your contact information, it's incumbent upon you to let us know, not for us to send multiple letters out to you. If you guys don't keep up with that 30-day notice, then we will issue a letter of revocation. You'll have to come in for a hearing, and your license will be revoked if we can't get a hold of you. So that helps us clean up. There's literally thousands of officiants on the Secretary of State's website. We're responsible for keeping that up to date, and we just don't have the personnel to do that. So how we can do it is to make sure that we have up-to-date information. So again, the law says 30 days. We want you to be cognizant that if you have a change of phone number, a change of address, all you need to do is fill out the address change form, and that keeps you up to date. Your officiant's license is, in most cases, is good for your life, as long as we have accurate information so that we can reach you, so that when something does change, we have a way to access you and let you know. So we will be beginning to enforce that later in the year. We want to make sure that you do keep that information up. And again, if you don't, according to the NRS, we can revoke your license. So that's our only way of trying to monitor and trying to clean up these databases and make sure that our lists are accurate, so that if you do join the wedding chamber, or somebody does ask who are the official officiants that I can go to, it's a good list. If you go on the website, we handed out change of address forms. If you have had a change of address or change of telephone number, fill out the form, drop it off, we'll input it. But you can also go online for future, and there's an online link on the clerk's page. It's close to the bottom. You can't see on this, but it's close to the bottom, and then you can just change your address or your telephone number online. So again, this is really important because it costs us a lot of money to mail and stuff and write those letters to people that we don't eventually ever get in touch with anyway. So it raises the cost for us. It raises the time that we don't have to work with officiants that are still active, and it increases our costs and our manpower requirements, which we just don't have. Anybody have any questions on that? No. No, unfortunately. If you filled out when you filled out your application, you pretty much know when that time was. If you've had a major change of address or telephone number since then, it probably still has your old information. So the easiest thing to do is go ahead and fill out the application, and we can check from there. But again, there's thousands, literally thousands of officiants on the Secretary of State website. Most of those are from Clark County, and we are responsible for giving the correct information to the Secretary of State. So we just don't have the manpower to go through and call all that, on a timely basis.
I've been here for more than 20 years, and some things have changed over that span. I am on the Secretary of State's website, but it does not give a certificate of permission number. What is that?
So when you were given a certificate of permission to solemnize marriages or perform marriages, then some of yours, it might be what's called a certificate of authority. So over the years, it's changed. Some of them say certificate of authority, some say certificate of permission to perform marriages. There's a number on there, and that's the number that we're asking for if you have it. If you don't have it, just put all your information down. We can look it up in the system.
It should have been on your original certificate that you got from the clerk's office, if you still have that. Yeah, if you don't, again, just give us all the rest of the information. This database is just a disaster, if you want to know the truth. And so anything you can give us that helps us be more efficient in trying to make sure that all officiants that are actually working are on there, and that we know who those people are, who you guys are, that helps. Anything you can do to help us reduce our time, spend it on research like that would be great. It's a manual process at this point. So that's one of the things we want to try to work with the Secretary. We are working with the Secretary of State's office, and if we can get a good database of who's actual, then we can send them that and say, this is a good list. Right now, we would have to, again, manually go through all of those officiants, and we are doing that as much as possible. Sending them a letter. The letter typically comes back because they're no longer here, they've died, they've moved, they don't want to do it anymore. Then we have to send another letter saying we need to give you a hearing to see whether you're still around. That letter comes back, and then we have to send another letter revoking the license. So that's a lot of time and money for us. And so what we're going to suggest to the Secretary of State is work really hard with the officiants community, get everybody up to date, and then say, here's the good database that we know. Any other questions?
There have been absolutely no changes.
No. No, give that to somebody. We kind of ran out of those two. Give that to somebody that needs it. And we also are looking at, when you file your marriage certificates, your name's on there. So we're going to be looking at those two and cross-comparing so that we want to make sure that if you are filing, that we have up-to-date information. If it doesn't match what we have, then we'll send a letter out to those people or contact you. But if everything's the same, you don't need to change it. Technically, it's the responsibility of the church and the officiant. And we're working on that in the background. We're working to make sure that these churches that license, that give us the certificate to solemnize marriages, that they are doing their part as well. But again, this is a process. Hopefully in a year or two, this will all be kind of just old news, and we'll have all these databases and all the people doing the correct things so that we don't have to go back and try to, cut and paste who's real and who's not. But yes, the church is supposed to do it, but you're the one that actually is performing the licenses, so it's up to you to make sure as well at this point. Any other questions on this issue? So if you don't have a paper, and if please talk about this for within people that you know as well that didn't come to the meeting today. We have hundreds, literally thousands of officiants that are open right now. And so we know that everybody wasn't able to come today, and that's okay. So within your own community, tell your friends, have you done that yet? Is your address up to date? Because we will be starting to send the letters saying that if we can't get a hold of you, and if all we have is your old address and you're still performing ceremonies, and we send it to the old address, then we will start the procedure to that address, and your license might be revoked just because we don't know how to get a hold of you.
I have not received a letter from you, but obviously I'm here because you notified me, so I got notification. Does that mean I still need to update my information?
If anything has changed between when you got your officiant's license and now, I would go ahead and make an address, make sure that it's up to date. If there has been no change, I've been in the same house for 23 years now, so I know that, my address hasn't changed. So you kind of know whether you've moved. So if it's changed, yes, you do. If it's not changed, just because especially if you didn't get a letter, that means we probably have the wrong address. The other major change that we're doing is the 10-day. The NRS says that you have 10 days to file all your wedding certificates. And it doesn't say 10 days except if there's a holiday or if there's a weekend or I mailed it and it got lost in the mail. It says 10 days. So we are going to be, as you know, we're going to be holding you guys accountable to that. If you need to come down and file, we're very fast. I think we're working. And Ashley, why don't you come up for this? We've streamlined our services. I think it's very fast now to file. It doesn't take long. There's almost never a wait of more than one person in front of you. We're trying to maintain in this building, when we move to the new area down there, there should be no impact on you. So the best thing to do is to come down and file in person. And you can do that once a week, because that is easily within the 10 days. Or you can wait, but then if there's a holiday or if there's any kind of a problem with your application, then you might miss the 10-day filing days. So if you do want to mail, I would recommend that you mail no later than 5 days after you have performed the ceremony, because it still has to go through the mail. It goes down to the central mail, then it goes up to our administrative offices, and then it goes over to Ashley to file, and we can't record it until it's over to Ashley. So because there's some confusion, we will no longer be taking marriage certificate filing at the Marriage License Bureau, because we don't have any way to process that and timestamp it without more staff, and we just don't have more staff. So the only when it's timestamped is when it gets into Ashley's hands. And so if it's the day before, it gets there and it's day 9 on Friday, then that would mean Saturday is day 10, Sunday is day 11, Monday is day 12. So that would be late, even if it gets to the marriage administrative offices on Friday. So I encourage you to either come down in person or make sure you mail it no later than 5 days after you've done the ceremony. The other key change is we will be, if you want it filed that day, if you're coming in on the 10th day, you need to be there by 3 o'clock, so we have time to process these. We can't do them at 5 o'clock because they're supposed to clock out. And the county has a clocking system. They can't be 2 minutes late to work, and they can't be 2 minutes late to check out, or we get in trouble. So if you want it clocked that day, if you want it filed that day, be there by 3 o'clock. If you don't mind it being, if it's day 9, then you can come from 3 to 5 and it will be filed the next day. So those are key changes to just making sure that we're complying with the law, that it's 10 filing days from the day you do the ceremony. And so the other key issue that we really wanted to go over, and this is where I need Ashley's help because she works with you every day, is we want you to make sure that you complete the application at the time of the ceremony. Don't do it later because it's more difficult to make sure that it's all accurate. And so it has less errors, and the couples aren't giving us complaints that they can't find their certificate because something's wrong, a spelling error or something like that. So make sure that you're completing it on time with the couple. Let them make sure that they have everything accurate, and then try to file it, obviously, within the 10 days. Do you want to kind of go over this part of it? These are all of the things that might hold up your application, even if you come in and file it. These are reasons that we would not be able to file it, even if it's in here.
Okay. Whiteout is going to be acceptable as long as you don't go over any of our original writing that is on the document, and it's neat and clean. Avoid food and drinks. We get some with coffee stains, pizza, all kinds of fun things that are on our certificates. We can't always clean any of that up. So as long as it's neat, legible, we'll accept it.
And one of the reasons we've been able to be so much quicker than the recorder is that we do put them through a machine that logs them electronically. So if there's things on the machine, there's things on the paper, then we can't put them through the machine, or it clogs up the machine. So that's how we're able to file within 1 day instead of 3 days, because we use this new technology. So please help us by not wrecking our technology. Make sure it's clean. Keep your food and your coffee and your pizza away from the marriage certificate.
And then presenting clean, legible, and compliant certificates ensures quality images for the certificates. The certificate that you drop off is the certificate that the couple gets. It's the same exact image. So anything that you change on it, if you white out our writing or you rewrite on it, they see all of that.
What it is it's actually we take a picture of this marriage certificate and then print that picture on the certificate paper. So that's why we don't type it in, it's not printed, it's the exact same picture. So whatever you can see on that certificate when you hand it in, that's what is on the final certified marriage certificate.
So we're going to show you some samples of what we don't want. Please stay in the 1-inch margins, leave those blank so that the border on the actual certificate paper can print there and not cover any of your information.
And that is part of NRS code, so we're just trying to make sure that we're complying with what the state has told us to do.
In that regard, I find it very easy to tell the witnesses not to go into the margin. Is the margin 1 inch? Because your picture up there borders over into the lines.
That was what not to do. We do not want you going into the lines.
No, over there, you show a larger piece of white on the right-hand side, and it does enter into the form.
No. that's the witness's name. Somebody wrote the witness's name over there.
Okay. My view, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Inside the end of the line, are we going to be?
Any other questions on that? Explain that a little bit more. I'm not quite sure. Oh. Yeah, if it's illegible, they can come and get a new copy. If it looks like it's illegible, then, you know, send them back and get a new copy. But if it's, I mean, this is ideal. We would like everybody to be perfect, so we know that's not really how it works in the real world. But yeah, if there's some reason that you think that it won't be acceptable when you're filing it, it's better to have the couple fix it before you do.
Go ahead, Janet. What was that?
That affects the 10 days, yes? That's within the 10 days, so we have to wait.
You would want to do that before you perform the ceremony if it wasn't acceptable document.
Go ahead. If you perform the ceremony and we can't file it, then you have to go get a replacement at the Marriage Bureau, which is $15.
Yeah, and you would probably be the one paying for that because we don't have any way of knowing who put the stain on. So I would tell them, you know, that this is not fileable. You need to go back to the Marriage Bureau and get another one.
Question is actually related to what you just discussed earlier. I had experience where I went her, and I have to be there, sign it in front of one of them. It's actually in the RJC building, not here, correct? Okay. I experienced that there are different fees involved. So what is the correct fee? Is it $15?
That's correct. It is $15. Once the certificate is filed and something is wrong, like you wrote the wrong date or you wrote the wrong witness, wrote the wrong location, that is $43. And that's once it's been filed.
So it's 15 and 43. There was one time it was 39 or.
Right.
There. Okay.
It was 39. Once we switched to our new system, it became 43.
Okay. All right. So thank you.
That's because once it's filed, then we have to go clean, you know, we have to go refile it. We have to make all the amendments. So it's a lot more expensive for us, a lot more time consuming for us to repair a filed document than it is to get it before it's filed. Because then you can just get a new marriage certificate or marriage license that you can have signed.
I'm relatively new at this, but a question that I have is, the few that I've filed so far, they always ask for a receipt, and they say, give me a receipt that I filed it
Where did you file it?
here.
We have little drop-off sheets where you write how many certificates you have once you give it to us, just like that gentleman has right there. Or we have a long one where you can write every certificate number that you're dropping off.
Why don't we go ahead and finish the, you know, issues and then we'll take more questions. Is that okay?
The $15 charge is for a replacement. If something's wrong, that we can't file it. If you did any of the, like what we're gonna show, things that we're not accepting, that's before it's been filed. Yes.
And then 43
is after.
One last question. What about tape? Like if they, you know, they rip the license and we have to get.
To me, that would be considered destroyed, and they would have to get a new license for that.
Yeah, let's keep going through the different, the different scenarios, and then we'll take questions at the end, okay?
Please do not stamp anything over the writing. We do not have confidential marriages in the state of Nevada. This one is one where please don't alter any of the names. We had somebody actually realize their name was spelled wrong, and they corrected it on this document.
Yeah, so the document, the document complies with NRS, and then what we have on what we have printed on the marriage license is what's in our file. So if you change something that's in the typing, then that means our files are not going to match, and there'll be a discrepancy between the filed marriage certificate and the license that was issued. And so that's just not acceptable. It has to be the same. So that's why it's really critical that you don't do anything to deface or modify the document that we provide the couple.
It said confidential.
Just any kind of stamp. Don't do any kind of stamp or any kind of decoration or anything.
Please make sure the document is legible and we can read the handwriting that's on it, because we have to type everything that we see. So if you could please just make it legible. This is where if you're going to use your stamp, that's fine. Just make sure you don't stamp over any of our original writing at the bottom, because they're taking this to other countries, other states. We may know what it says, but the person who's looking at the legal document can't read it if it's stamped over.
This is probably just me, but if you don't speak into the microphone, I have a very difficult time hearing you.
Sorry. Please do not write over any of the couple's names. If you sign over the couple's names when you're writing the location, or if you sign over the witness name when you're signing the document, we cannot read it.
And I know you guys do a lot of these, and so, I sign my name a lot, so it gets messier and messier. So just remember that for each couple, this is an original document that they'll keep for years. And so just make it look pretty. Use some common sense to make it look pretty, that you're not writing over each other's things, that it's legible, that you can tell who the couple is, that they'll be able to remember their spouse in, 20 years. So just remember that this is a permanent document.
The next one is whiteout and writing over our text. This one was, all our original information was rewritten on the document. If you use whiteout, you just have to over just what you're writing, not what's already on the original document.
So again, whiteout is only acceptable on the things that you enter onto the document, and if it's legible when you're done. So if you do it a couple times and it gets really messy and it's not readable, it still would not be acceptable.
Whiteout over the correction, whiteout over like the witness name or anywhere, just make it legible. Try not to go over the lines where you have to draw them back in. If you do, please make them neat.
So again, we'll take questions now. Now's a good time for questions. But remember that this is a permanent document. We're trying to make sure that it's legible, that everybody can read what it says permanently. And so if you bring in a document and it's filed on day 10, but it has any of these issues so that we don't feel like it's a legible, fileable document, then we will contact you and then the document will be late. So make sure that it looks good when you come in. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask Ashley before you leave, so that you can try to fix it or do it, remedy the issue. But what we're trying to do is make sure that you guys know everything so that there's no, problem with you complying with the law of filing within 10 days and that we have the accurate information and that we can read what it is and that the couple can read what it is. So that's all we're trying to do is just make sure that everybody understands that, that this is what we need to be able to file the document when you submit it and it is within the 10-day deadline.
Two real quick questions, but let me say first, Ashley, you do a great job.
Thank you.
Had somebody informed just this last week that witness names now have to be printed, is that correct? Because previously, signature was used.
Right, but if there's an error on the document and we have to recreate the document for an amendment purpose, if they sign it, we can't read the witness's name.
Correct. I always have the witnesses
Print.
on my copy, but I've never had them print on this copy.
Yes.
And then a last question, it's not for me, but a family member of somebody that I would normally serve has arranged for a temporary license or a situational license, and that is with the middle name, just an initial instead of the entire name of the party being married. That won't make any difference, will it?
You mean just the middle initial?
They requested permission for a one-time
Right, and they write the couple's names.
and they put in the middle initial, let's just call it B, instead of
That's fine.
Brown. Okay.
So he's asking whether you can use initials, and it has to be, the middle name can be an initial, but that's all, right?
No, I'm asking, the out-of-state officiant asked for permission to come for a one-time situation.
Correct.
But they don't match the wedding license, and the only mismatch is
Just the middle name. Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes?
Kiosk machine that was upstairs before for the couples to come in and get their certificates and that, will that be down here?
Yeah, we're moving that. It's the one that's already downstairs on the back side of our clerk's desk, and we're moving that down at the end of the hall as well. Yeah, we can make this PowerPoint available. We'll put it on the website. You can download it. Okay. Yeah, again, we're trying to make sure that we have all the accurate information, and most people, when they sign their names, you cannot tell what letters are in it. So it's more important that we know who it is. Yes, you can print the witness's name. Over there?
Quick question. Bride and groom show up 30 minutes before their ceremony. It's a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 wedding, and the license is with coffee stains or tire marks or whatever have you on it. Our responsibility is not to sign that. What is the verbiage we can use to conduct their ceremony if they sign a disclaimer saying they know they're not married because their marriage license was destroyed or not available?
And I'm not going to tell you guys how to do your business, but either you, if there's time, send them back and get a new copy, which we would give them. If there's not time, maybe you want to go back and get the copy before you actually file it. Go back with them, especially if it's a higher end wedding. So you can do, I'm not telling you how to run your business, but if you think it's not fileable, you need to tell them, I don't think that the clerk's office will take this because the document is defaced.
Right, but what should we say? We cannot say your husband and wife, we cannot say Mr. and Mrs., because they're not. So we want to make sure we are
Yeah, what I'm saying is you can still marry them, but make sure that you come back with them and pay the $15 and replace the certificate. You are the ones that sign it at that point and have the witness. So you can come replace the certificate with us, right? And then fill in the information. It's still a legal ceremony. Yeah, it's not saying that's not
Right.
correct, and it's present. That's a different issue. Correct. They have to have a license. But if you know that it's a good license, but it's just not fileable, then go ahead and conduct. I mean, I'm not telling you how to do your business, but I would probably go ahead and conduct it, and then I would take it in and replace it before I filed it and fill out the information again, because it's basically your information at that point.
It's their responsibility to go get the replacement and bring it back to us.
It's your responsibility after you conduct a ceremony to file the license. So if you give it back to them and they don't file it, you're the one that's going to be docked. If you don't sign it, that's, yeah, if you conduct the ceremony, you should sign it, but you just need to make sure that they understand that it may not be fileable and that they need a replacement document that does have your signature and the witness's information.
I appreciate very much what this man's saying, but about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I had a situation where over exactly what you're talking about, a couple came in and contested their marriage, and they had been married for 2 years. And at that point, they just wanted the county to void the marriage license because they weren't really legally married in their minds. And I was called up and had to answer for that or revocation of license. The only time ever, and I did my first wedding here in '87. So we need to be very careful about stepping out and doing something and then thinking, well, it's their responsibility.
Correct. It's the officiant's responsibility after the marriage is performed to file the document. It's the officiant that will be held responsible for that. So I would not give it back to the couple for any reason. Did you want? We try. You know, you know what they're like when they come. They're often not really listening. We give them all sorts of documents. You know, we try to say things. We have signs on the windows, and often they still don't quite get it. Go ahead, Jim. Oh, okay. We are posting this on YouTube. I'll repeat the question. So the question was, can the marriage license emphasize this information when we issue the license? And we do try. We actually manually or verbally go over everything on that we're telling them to do. We're trying to make sure, but as you know, often they're not really paying attention to what we have to say. They're in their own little world. So again, everybody kind of at every step has to reiterate this information. Jim had a...
We also provide a white envelope, a large white envelope for the couple to put the documents in. I mean, ideally they would do that, and the documents would stay fresh and stay intact until they get to you. But obviously, that doesn't always happen. So, but we will continue to do that too.
Yeah, we give them the license and instructions and the envelope, and then we tell them, and it's all on our website, and we're trying to do these, cuter little one sheets that they'll pay attention to. But again, often they're kind of in their own world at this point, so everybody needs to reiterate each of these things. The question was there a fee put on the marriage license to promote weddings? And yes, that happened. We started implementing that in August. There's a $14 wedding promotion fund that it goes to. It is on every marriage license. It should generate about $1.2 million a year. And that was one of the things that raised the license to $77. So that's included in that $77. And that money is now the LVCVA has access to that funds, and we're working with them to come up with wedding promotion research and ideas.
My next question, part of that question, is there a specific targeting to say
At this point, the interlocal agreement was just signed. I just got it yesterday, actually a copy of it. The LVCVA is beginning their research portion of this effort, so that will be figuring out who our target markets are, who our demographics are, and what is the most effective promotion that we can do. So the first section will be the research, and that should be hopefully ended around August 1st, and from there we'll, have some kind of a campaign develop, discuss what the campaign is. We'll let you know every step of the way. I would certainly assume, and I'm not going to make any commitment right now, but I would certainly assume that the Wedding Promotion Fund will include reaching out to the LGBT community.
Thank you.
Oh, you found another one.
Not many of us have typewriters anymore. So is there anything in the works for a template so we could type it and then have it printed on the certificate?
Not right now.
So what we try to do is not change that form at all, the marriage certificate. When we print it, we try to keep it identical to the previous layout so that when you run it through your printer, your laser printer or inkjet printer, and you have a template set up for that, which you can do with Microsoft Word or several other word processors, and you can actually have it print on the specific areas for you.
Okay, so there's no actual template that's already prefabbed with the spot for the address and the witness?
Correct.
Okay.
I think the simplest way, and I know a lot of you do this already, and I know that because one time we changed the certificate layout, and it caused a lot of problems. But the bottom line is that you can open up a Word document and set up a template for the marriage certificate and fill in that template. You could also do it with Adobe. There's a lot of different tools you can use. You will have to go through the trial and error, make a copy of a certificate, or 100 copies maybe, and use those for practice, so you're not doing it on a real live certificate for a couple. But once you get that format laid out, then yes, you can put that in your printer and run it through and have it print in the open fields.
Some officiants also have stamps. That makes it easier for them. So, I know that when my name was added, it changed the format a little bit, from Diana's, and so some of the stamps no longer fit. We did everything we could to make it as close to the old template as possible, but some of you did have to order new stamps so that it fit with the new format. That's one of the reasons we try not to change it very much, because we know that there's costs and time incurred for you guys to try to manipulate the new form.
If the witness comes in from a country that uses characters like Chinese or Japanese, and they don't print in English, what do we do?
You need to get someone to translate that, because we can only enter data in English. Yeah, you'll need to, someone in their party probably can translate, but it has to be in English for us. The final document has to be in English. I mean, you can use the Chinese application, but their information has to be entered in English. That's really important to remember.
If a certificate gets damaged after the wedding, we bring it in, we bring it to the office where we would file it, we can get a replacement, fill that out, and then hand it in.
Can they do it?
Where'd Ashley go? Go ahead.
You have to get a replacement at the marriage bureau. We don't do replacements in this office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for electronic filing with those, or for those people who mail in certificates, and the way the postal system seems to be working recently, it just doesn't work well.
I think the DMV and the car registration program is a good example of something we'd like to implement sometime, but we're not at a point to do that right now. We're still absorbing the new system and picking up the certificate process, and also doing some major upgrades to that same system. But at some point, I think that's a very obvious direction to go, absolutely.
I have a couple questions. Does the witness on the certificate have to be over 18 or over 21?
Who's talking? Oh, there, sorry. Does the
The
witness
witness?
needs to be over 18?
They don't have,
They have to know what's going on. If they were called to testify in court, they would have to know what they just witnessed.
So the age isn't, there's no legality to the age?
no, but I think the point is that they have to understand what's going on. It's, for the most part, from our perspective, it's contract law. And so
Right.
the people that are entering into the marriage need to be coherent and able to understand what they're doing, and the witness would need to be the same. So, for example, if somebody had their 6-year-old child wanting to witness, that's probably not the best idea, but, you know, obviously 16 years old or whatever, something where you feel confident that that person understands what they're witnessing, then
Okay.
yes.
And my second question is, the certificate has a space for 2 witnesses, but the legal document has only a space for 1. Can you list both names on the legal with the comma in between?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can write "and." Some people write "and." Some of you make the "and" symbol. That's fine.
Okay. And is there, last one, sorry. Is there a plan with same-sex marriages to modify the certificate to read groom, groom, bride, bride, bride?
We've
It's
put
just party one,
generic
party two?
information in there instead of
Okay.
making people, there's just not enough space. As, you know, we need to keep the format the same, so there's not enough to have, you know, circle what you want. So I think we have spouse 1 and spouse 2 now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you see in the near future, or is it in the works, the issuance of marriage licenses to be anywhere or any locality?
No, it's hard enough to keep to keep making sure we're doing things accurately and consistently. So no, there's no plan in the works to expand who can issue marriage licenses. You'll have to come down to the bureau. I did have one more just question for you guys before you go. I've gotten a lot of requests to be able to officially issue a vow renewal, which would mean you'd have to file it too if someone wanted an official document. Can you just raise your hand if that's something that you would support? If the clerk's office actually issued a vow, it would not be mandatory. It would still be up to the couple if they wanted to do it, but to be allowed to issue vow renewal licenses and certificates. Raise your hand if that's something you support. We've had a lot of people request that of us, and I just wanted to see if it was, so it looks like that would be helpful to you guys? Okay. Not mandatory, no, they wouldn't have to do it, but if they wanted to do it and wanted to have the official seal, then they could come down and do that. So that's something that we'll talk to the legislature next year about then, if you guys think that's something that would help you. It would also help us track a little bit better, which would be nice. Any other questions? Oops, in the back.
And 90s and before that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, are you ever going to do the wedding certificates for 2 on each one? Because there's not enough room usually on the one. So for many years, they always had 2.
NRS only requires 1 witness, and so
Yeah.
we'll stay with that.
That's what I say to him, but they seem to always want 2.
Again, they may add another name, like Ashley said. We won't reject it because they have another name, as long as 1 witness at least is legible. Any other questions? Oh, one more down here in front.
This isn't a question, this is just a thank you to Lynn and her staff for making the transition from the recorder's office to the clerk's office regarding marriages so smooth. I was very concerned, and I just wanted to say thank you to your staff, and congratulations.
I think I have a great staff. I'm very proud of them. Thank you for coming, and I will be sending out more information as we get it. Pay attention to your emails, and try to join the Wedding Chamber. The next event is a happy hour on the first Tuesday of the month at 5:30 at Carmine's.